Yes, hello, and I'm gonna start the video with this today because I don't want you to forget. If you are buying anything, feel free to use my link down below. It helps me out a ton. You get a discount on anything that's not already discounted, and you get this decal that's on the screen right there, as well as on my tail in the back. And most importantly, the snail gets less money because it goes to you and me. I also want to thank all my YouTube members as well as my patrons, and I want to give something back to the patrons a little bit. I'm gonna be starting to upload my videos on Patreon as well. Nothing changed for the YouTube viewers, but if you want to watch it without ads and if you want to watch it without any YouTube compression, you can do it over there. If you don't want to pay, that's completely fine. You're not gonna miss out on anything on the live channel. For today's video, we have a little bit of a streamlined version of last year, so it should take a lot less long. Yes, hello, it's me from after I made the entire video. I lied! I somehow managed to make the video that I streamlined and I pre-edited and I tried to do my absolute best to make it shorter. It ended up being longer. It's absolutely fucking incredible. I honestly don't know how I managed it. But here we are. And if you don't like long-winded content, you're probably not on my channel anyway, so we should be good. There is a little bit of a disclaimer I want to put in. First of all, it's mostly about objective performance. If you like a plane a lot, if you want to play a plane a lot, you're never wrong putting a talisman on it. Secondly, don't put too much emphasis on the order I put the vehicles in. It's mostly if they are in the video, they're probably somewhat worth it. You can't really go wrong with anything that I put above B tier. There's some nuance to it, but most of the time, if you see it on the list, you can't really go wrong with it. There's about 5 or 8 vehicles in the entire video that do need some explaining. But overall, you should be safe by just scrolling to the end of the timestamp and seeing what is what, with a few exceptions. So I still recommend you to watch part of the timestamp. I go through everything by tier, so it's not one jumbled mess, apart from I think France and another tech tree, because they just have no, they don't have no alternative. So there's really no way to go the long-winded route. And that's basically it. So let's get right started with the best silver line grinders that you can buy on the sale. We have the XP50, absolute no-brainer. You have an airspan, good performance, good guns. Not the most amount of ammo, but that's essentially the only big drawback that you have. And other than that, the American tech tree lacks good silver line grinders. You can go to the top tier stuff, but I don't recommend that if your main concern is silver lines. Then we go to the German tech tree. There's really nothing here. We can go for the Yak 1B, but you can see the multiplier isn't that high. D13 is good when the pack goes on sale. And the Junker 288, of course. Do keep in mind you are going to be losing a lot of games, you are going to be dying a lot, and you're going to be the most brain-numb player in the game after you're finally done grinding anything. Don't recommend it, but it does get the stuff done that you want it done. Then we go to Russia, and Russia has not much either. The main things here are going to be the Yak 3 VK107, despite the 5.7 BR matchmaker. I'll get more in depth into that a little bit later into the video. The D9 is a good one in terms of grinding, and the SU11, which is the most expensive and highest tier premium that I would recommend for silver line grinding. But this thing is an absolute menace, and it will help you grind all the way up till rank 6 as well, which is definitely welcome. Then we have Britain. There are a few planes here. We have the Corsair F Mark II. Same thing as the Corsair Mark FU1A basically. Then we have the Mustang Mark 1A, not the best flight performance, but it's a premium and it's 3.3 with pretty good guns. So you are just going to be raking it in. Wyvern also very good to get on the sales. And that's essentially it for the British tech tree. Then we have the FOU, the 109 E7, as well as the P51 C11. I think the C11 is slightly better when it comes to being a plane. However, as you can see, the multiplier isn't too high. I would recommend the BF 109 E7. And then we have honorable mention, J2M5. It's good, but in terms of a silver line grinder, if your aim isn't up to par, the guns also got nerfed previous patch. You don't have the most amount of ammo. You need to be pretty accurate. For most of you, I don't recommend this in terms of a silver line grinder. It's a decent plane, don't get me wrong. But if you are looking for just strictly silver lines, this is not the low tier farm club plane that you are looking for. China, I wouldn't really recommend anything, but if you want a Chinese silver line grinder, get the Key 84 Co. Italy, I would say get nothing here if your only concern is silver lines. But if you need something, get the Ariete, despite its high BR. But again, I'll get more in depth to that in a minute here. France, Yak 3, Insane plane. I can't see the price right now, but you can probably DM Glitch to ask for the price. He will definitely give you an answer. Then we have the Swedish tech tree. The VL Pure Mursky is a very great plane and very unique. I would get it over the G6. However, the G6, by definition, is a better pickup if you only care about grinding. If you also care about some uniqueness and a different experience, Pure Mursky is my pick. And Israel, don't get anything here. It's not worth it in terms of Silver Lion grinding. Let's get started with rank 1. We have the F2A1 Buffalo as well as the F2A1 Buffalo. They are both identical, however the first one is premium. That's why we are going to put it in the S tier. It's all relative, of course. Rank 1 premiums aren't that fantastic, and if you really can't choose between a rank 1 premium, I'm going to add the P36C for good measure. If you are going to be buying rank 1 premiums, there's probably something wrong with you, so you might actually like. And then we arrive at rank 2, and here it becomes a little bit more diverse. I'm going to start off with the P51C10. Yes, the guns leave a little bit to be desired, but the 450 cals are more than sufficient for the performance that you have. And in the same way, the P39, however, I'm going to put it in A tier instead. Yes, the battle rating, yes, the flight performance is absolutely criminal at only 2.7. However, the guns are kind of unwieldy. You only have the 4 MGs in the wings, which don't pack a barrel punch. And then you have 2 50 cals in the nose with pretty limited ammo. And then the 37 is just an absolute bitch to use. So I'm gonna say A tier, fantastic plane. When it comes to grinding, probably not the best. If you aren't very good at the game, this is probably gonna be a B tier. So it's gonna kind of depend on you. And then we also have the FU1A, which is an A tier basically in anyone's hands. It's very fast, but it's kind of boring to play. You're forced to run away from everyone basically. There are some planes that you can dogfight, but this thing is carried by speed as well as the 650 cals in the wings. Keep in mind they are early war 50 cals. They are not gonna pack a very heavy punch. Then we get the B34, believe it or not, and I'm actually gonna put it in C tier. You have an air spawn, you have good gunner coverage. It works as a heavy fighter and you can bomb some things, but other than that, I don't think this is really worth it. I'm gonna put it in there because I know some people want to see bombers as well. Then we have rank 3, and rank 3 is both easy and very hard. This thing right here, XP50, and that's all I need to do for rank 3. It's 800 golden eagles. It's an absolute no-brainer. You get an air spawn, you get good guns, good performance, good climb, good speed, good turn rate. This thing is strong all around. Yes, it compresses quite badly at high speed. It can rip its wings off at like 780 kilometers an hour. But other than that, and the low ammo pool on the 20 mil, this thing doesn't have real flaws. Then we go to rank A with the P51A. Not much to talk about here. You have good speed, amazing guns, and it's at a low BR, which means that you can grind with it pretty easily, mainly because you are going to be kicking a lot of toddlers in the balls. If that's your cup of tea, you're going to have a good time with this thing. The performance leaves some things to be desired here and there. It's not the best performing plane, but because the guns are so good and you are at such a low BR, it will carry you most of the time. And then we have the P47D28, which I'm also slapping into the A tier, mainly because it's basically a lower tier P47M from Mega, I guess we can call it. The 5.7 version, it's a lower BR. It does perform slightly worse, but it's pretty close in performance. You got the 850 cal, so even if you kill everyone in the air, and there is a bomber in orbit, and you can be asked to like actually fly after it, you can simply ground pound. You have a lot of ammo, you have a lot of ground ordnance too for late game. All in all, this thing is super well rounded, very criminally under-tiered. P47s aren't that great anymore in today's meta. This is one of the exceptions. Then we have the P63A, which I'm slapping into B tier. Plane is good, but same deal as with the P29 and 0. The guns just ain't it. Then we have the P38L0, which I'm slapping into B tier, mainly because it gets an air spawn. The guns are not that fantastic either, only 120mm and 450 cals in the nose. They are very strong, but it's kind of unwieldy to use. It's not that great for consistent RP when it comes to like dogfighting people, but in terms of having an air spawn and being able to pick off 1 or 2 bombers, it's pretty consistent that way. I'm not gonna praise this thing too much. It's a great vehicle, but it also has quite a bit of flaws. Then we have the F8F1. This thing got its thermonuclear bomb nerfed, so the engine doesn't really overheat that badly anymore. It only got nerfed in the terms of overheating, so it's basically a buff actually. Plane is pretty good now, but only 450 cals at 5.0. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it. But you know, very much viable. Then we have the B49 F4, which I'm slapping into C tier. Why is it not good performing? It's amazing, but you only have 120 mil. And the performance isn't that great anymore, especially when you are fighting Japan. So this thing is a little bit dependent on the matchmaker, as well as the fact that you can fly this thing for free in another nation. So I don't really see the reason to actually buy this thing. When it comes to the German lineup, you'll see in a minute here, this thing is going to be slightly higher up. The XP55 is going to be slapped into B tier as well. It's a good plane, however, it's completely overpriced and the multipliers aren't that fantastic. And then we have the F4U4. It's more of an arguable C tier. It's a good plane, but there are better options because of all of this. Good ordnance, good 50 cals. It's very close to something like the P51D30 that we will slap into the rank 4 lineup in a second. But overall, I don't really recommend this thing. There are much better F4Us to fly that are coming right up. And most of these planes are simply better than it, mainly due to the performance and BR. It depends a little bit on what you want. But it's definitely viable if you are a Corsair enjoyer, and that's why I'm including it anyway. Then we reach rank 4. The first one is going to be the F2G, and I'm going to slap it into A tier for 2 reasons. I want to put a disclaimer on, yes, it's not on sale, but it's more about if you already have it, if you have bought it when it was dirt cheap, you don't need to worry about these other planes anymore. However, there is a caveat to this, and this goes for basically all the rank 4s in the entire game. And I will repeat this every time because a lot of you are just gonna skip throughout this video. And if you don't, well, thanks for the watch time, I guess. But 6.0 to 5.0, 6.3 even, they're all sucked up into the Junker 288 battle rating. Means 6v6s, and if you are on the ally team, you are gonna get a lot of free wins. So being able to ground pound is pretty damn important at this tier, simply because, well, you guessed it, you're gonna be ground pounding quite a bit, considering it's 6v6 and 6 of the enemy players are probably in bombers and or ground pounders. Sometimes you run into one fighter, but overall, it's about ground pounding here. So I'm gonna slap the F4U4B into A tier. No, it's not because it's a good ground pounder. Well, it is, but it's also a good aircraft just for air to air. You have 420mm, absolute shitload of ammo. It shreds everything, including pillboxes, so can't really go wrong with this thing. Used to be even better. If this was like a year ago or 2 years ago, I would put it at S tier as well. However, the flight performance got a little bit nurtured, it got upped in BR, and overall I don't think this BR is that enjoyable. But this is a little bit of a bridge gap here. I think that the F2G is slightly better, simply because it's premium and gets premium bonuses. But if you want to put a Talisman on anything at this BR, I would put it on the F4U4B. Or the P51D30. And the D30 is mainly because it's at a lower BR and you can actually play the game without having to worry about 6.0 all that much. So you actually might get some air-to-air combat going on, which is a lot more enjoyable in my experience. And then you have the 650 cals, which is more than sufficient. You can ground pound with it if you really want to. But overall, I would say it's a toss-up between these two. But even though it's not on sale, depending on the price of the F2G, it's basically always worth it. And I highly advise you to pick it up. Even though today it might even be 20 bucks or so. So then it kind of starts drifting into the A area. But you can't go wrong with it. These three are basically all interchangeable depending on how much you value your money and how much you value premium time. Then we have the Spitfire LF Mark 9, which I'm putting into B tier. Flight performance is good, but you only have 220mm. You're not incredibly quick. You're pretty susceptible to sitting in the gunner of a Junker 288. And you can't really ground pound all that well, so I'm gonna put it in B tier. When it comes to air superiority, the plane is absolutely fire. However, you're not gonna be doing much of that in rank 4. If the matchmaker changes, this one slides over into A tier. But as of right now, I'm gonna put it into B tier. Then we have the P51H. Incredible performance, absolute stupendously good prop. However, you guessed it, 6.0 matchmaker. But at 6.3 are gonna be sucked up into the Jet BR quite often as well. And you're still a prop versus a Jet. Yes, you can get something done, but if the Jet knows what he's doing, you're probably not going to touch him. And that makes it a little bit annoying to play. Again, if the matchmaker changes, this one will slide over one to the left. Absolutely stellar performance, in my opinion. Top 3 best props in the game, together with another one that we will cover in about 2 timestamps from now. And then we have the F82E, and I'm just going to slap it in here. because you can just kind of airspawn in and hose everyone down. So I might just slide it over the B tier as well. The flight performance isn't that fantastic, and it is dependent on your matchmaker as well as who you are fighting against, because the F-82 against very good enemies is not gonna do all that much, but against a bunch of shitters that you will run into at this BR very often, because everyone is ground pounding and or bombing. I'm sorry if I called you a shitter, but that's just the best way to do it. F-82, slap a gun pod on it, spray everyone down. After you're done, spray everyone on the ground, get a shitload of RP. You're gonna do absolutely fine. On to rank 5, and rank 5 is gonna have 0 S tiers. We have the F-86A5, which I'm gonna put at A tier, as well as the F-84B. F-84B is a little bit more consistent, lower BR, you can just kind of rush in, get your stuff done. Performance is kind of annoying because all you really have is being fast. The F-86A5, it's a good plane, but the only reason this thing is a higher rank as the F-86 F-25 is due to the BR. If you are willing to gamble a little bit more and getting up tier to 9.3, 9.7 sometimes even, 9.3 is very common with these 8.7 planes, then sure, fly the F-86 F-25, but the A5 I think is better for the BR because the matchmaker is a lot more consistent. And if you are trying to grind something, I think you're better off with consistency other than the eventual or potential spike in RP that you get because you happen to get a good game. I think it's easier to get good games in the F-86A5. It's a little bit more forgiving to fly as well in terms of being more noob friendly. And the the F-84B is simply just go fast, outrun everyone, and just kind of laugh at everyone as they are trying to chase you. If you get fully up-tiered, you are going to get shafted. But, I mean, that goes for every jet at the moment. Now we have the F-84G, basically the same thing as with the A5 and the F-25. Airspawn, same deal as the F-84B. However, it's going to be higher BR and you will be up tiered to 8.3 quite often. And let me tell you, those planes are not exactly enjoyable to fly. However, if you do like the F-84s and you are familiar with F-84s, because they are essentially in every nation in the game right now, you should have a pretty decent time with it. Then we go to rank 6, and rank 6 is a little bit controversial. We have the first one here, is the the A4B in my experience. I'm gonna say arguable. The flight performance isn't that great, and everyone that says that it's amazing and that it's good for air superiority, it's not the plane, it's the pilot, motherfuckers. That's not how it works. This thing isn't very fast, it loses a lot of speed very quickly, and it doesn't really have the best turn rate at all. It looks like you outturn people because you slow down so much, but the only reason I'm putting this in arguable is because it's actually somewhat decent as a bomb rack. If you want to just suicide bomb onto enemy bombing points, be my guest, it's pretty decent for that. The same reason the AV-8C, the C is pretty decent for that. If you have the AV-8A, it's the identical one. I don't have it in the list because it's not available at the moment. It's good. It's good for bombing as well as then transitioning into a fighter. But I do think there are better options. We have the A10A, which I'm going to put in B tier as well. It's a little bit closer to C tier. I should probably put it more like this. Why? Because the A10 very often will find that it's just going to get shit on by the entirety of the enemy team. You are so slow. You have the top speed of a super prop. By the time you reach the middle of the map and you start ground pounding, the game might already be decided, and by the time you kill 1 or 2 AA units, you're probably already dead. Or you've already won and now you win with 2 AA units. In the occasional game, you can get a lot of stuff done, because, well, the last enemy is either camping on the airfield, he's camping in space, he's running, he's hiding, or whatever reason might be. If you are left to your own devices, yes, you can clean up the entire enemy ground area. But this doesn't happen very often, and if you need to rely on it, I tried to make a video where I was ground pounding in the thing, and 10 games in a row I killed 1 or 2 ground units and then the game was over, or I died. Sounds enjoyable to you? Be my guest, it's somewhat decent, and the fact that it's a premium definitely helps because you can grind all the way down to rank 1 with it. But other than that, I don't think this is a fantastic deal. Then we have the F8U, as well as the F104A. These two are quite similar in terms of how good they are in performance, in terms of grinding. The F104, I'd say get the C. Why? Because you can run the snap rocket pulse to kind of makeshift flares. Whereas with the F8U, it's more diverse, you have good missiles, you have decent guns. Be careful to not rip your wings off, but both of these planes can't really go wrong with them. Do keep in mind with the F104 you are going to be running a lot, and with the F8U it does require you to be a slightly better player, but you get better missiles. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. And then we reach rank 7, and we reach some of the planes that essentially everyone in the game already has. But in case you don't, I'm gonna cover them anyway. So first of all, we have the plane that already is owned by literally everyone and the modder, the F5C. I'm gonna put it into S tier because it's an absolutely fantastic grinder. It's one of the best pickups that you can get in the entire game. For the American nation, if you don't have anything here, get the F5C. Or get the XP50. Then we have the F5E, if you already have it. It's a better plane and it gets more rewards as the F5C. However, the F5C is premium. So at the end of the day, your net score, you are gonna earn more with the F5C and you can grind the entire tech tree. However, if you already have most of the tech tree and you are looking for rank 7 to progress into rank 8, slap a Talisman on the F5E. You should have a pretty easy time. People say that it's not fast enough, you don't have radar missiles. Trust me, it doesn't matter. This thing is an absolute rat vehicle and it doesn't really matter how new or how experienced you are gonna be a bit of a menace. Then we have the F4S Phantom, which I'm slapping into A to B tier. It's a good premium. It's also one of the most sold premiums in the entire game for a reason. It's a very good stepping stone into top tier matchmaker. You have radar missiles, however the performance of the F4S is not very good. It's a Phantom with hard wings, it doesn't have slats, it's not that maneuverable. You need to carry an external gun pod if you want guns. All in all, I don't think it's that fantastic, but the missiles that it carries are pretty good and you will get stuff done with it. But the only reason I'm putting this here is because it's a premium. If this thing was not a premium, it would be into B tier. But yet again, only buy this thing if it's on sale. If it's not on sale, this thing is completely overpriced. And if you do buy it, be sure to use my link, will you? Then we have the F8E, slightly worse than the F5E in my experience. It's also a lower BR, but 10.7 and 10.3 are essentially interchangeable at the moment. F8E does get better missiles, it does get more guns, however you get less ammo per gun. And it's a little bit more unwieldy to use. It's a good plane, but this thing does require you to be basically on top of it. This is not a very noob-friendly plane. I'm not gonna say that you need to be absolutely fantastic to fly it, but it's not like the F5C where you can just kinda pick it up and play it right out of the box. And then lastly, we have the A10A, and we're gonna put it into mid-B, the C tier. Same reason as the top one. Yes, it's a decent grinder, but more often than not, you're gonna find yourself not reaching the ground targets before the game is actually over. And that's essentially it. To run it down real quick, if you really need to choose anything, let's say you only want 1 or 2 planes to grind out all the props, just get the XP50, no brainer, absolutely, I don't even have to think about it. XP50, F2G is insanely good if you have the ability to buy it cheap, but this thing is just going up and up and up in price. And otherwise it's gonna be the F5C. If you want more of a top tier experience, you can go for the F4S. But don't say I didn't warn you, because this thing is gonna serve you better in the long run when it comes to actually maintaining your mental. And that's all. Let's go to Germany. Germany is a little bit of an odd one. They have a lot of very good planes, but they don't have a lot of very good grinders. Apart from a select few, but we'll get there when we get there. Let's start off with rank 1. There's only one plane, Heinkel 100, don't really need to explain anything. Stupid fast, very fragile however, and not the best guns. On to rank 2. There's still something wrong with you if you buy a rank 1 premium, Talisman or whatever, but that aside. Rank 1, we have the Focke-Wulf 190A1. Very good speed, good climb rate, good guns. The 4 8mm around the nose are pretty potent. And then the MG FFMs or whatever the fuck they're called, the early 20mm from Germany, pack a good punch. They are quite far away on the wings and you have a pretty limited ammo supply. And the same thing goes with the 109 E4. Very good performance for 3.0. However, a little bit limited ammo, not as great. So I'm going to put this more towards A rank. I do think that the 190A1 is the best plane here, together with the Yak 1B. Not only because it's a premium, the Yak 1B is just a very good plane for Araby in general. The Shevak absolutely slaps. Good speed, good turn. You might struggle against a 1v1 versus a BF-109 E4, but you know, sure, the 109 E4 might be slightly better in the 1v1, But I think in the average game, the Yak 1B is gonna have a little bit more impact. But they are pretty closely matched anyway. And then we have the 109 E1. It's just a low tier bully. It's pretty damn good, but low tier, low rewards, not really worth it. But it is a very good plane. And then we have the 109 F1, which is also absolutely insane. Rank 2 Germany is absolutely stacked with good vehicles. But it only has one cannon in the nose, only 60 rounds. So a little bit iffy in terms of grinding, but these planes are all very, very good if you are only looking at the performance. And then we reach rank 3. First off, we're going to piss people off with the TAL 154 at rank B. The only reason this thing is good is because it has an air spawn. If this thing didn't have an air spawn, this thing would be absolutely worthless, other than perhaps the guns, but this thing just really ain't it. You will not win the dogfight versus 99% of the fighters in the enemy team. Yes, it's not a fighter, but you're also not faster than them, you also don't outclimb them, and your engines overheat pretty quickly into the game. You have no real advantages other than good guns, as well as the air spawn for the 5th time in the same 6 sentences. It's pretty good at cleaning up bombers at the start, maybe going head on with 1 or 2 guys. The second you lose your altitude, the second people equalize or the map is very big, you're basically dead in the water, but it can get the job done and it's pretty cheap. So maybe I'll move it slightly over to A, but don't expect good performance out of it. You're probably going to get good stats out of it, but that's not because the plane is very good, and I don't want to hear it down below either. Then we have the 190 A4, which is A tier, B tier. Maybe we can move them all up one slide to the right, like this. Probably a little bit fairer, because there are some planes coming up that are pretty fucking good. First of all, we have the 190 A4. It's just a solid plane. There's not really much to talk about. It's a trademark 190. Then we have the 190 D9, which can probably be in the middle here together with the 109 F4. Why is that, you might ask? The D9 at 5.0 it's very good in terms of flight performance. It's not the best for ground pounding, it's not the best for killing the ground units and doing that kind of stuff, because you can see the BR, we are reaching that 6.0 battle rating, and you know what that means? It means Junker 288 battle rating. Your team is going to struggle. You probably don't have to worry about ground pounding that much, because you are going to be fending off hordes of F2Gs, or you get normally tiered or down tiered, and then you are going to be completely fine, and the D9 is a very, very good plane. The 109 F4 is a very diverse plane, and kind of in between here, because it's not the best for grinding. I'm just going to put it here, mainly because it again only has 120mm in the nose. If you want to carry gun ports, sure you can, but it only has 15mm, which I don't think are all that fantastic. Then we have a plane that's not on sale, but I do think it's pretty good. It's probably one of the best grinders that you can get at this BR. It's the BV155. Now currently it's 27 bucks, and for that alone I'm going to put it in B tier. But it's very good if you do have it. Air spawn, good guns. It is pretty slow, but it's very maneuverable, and it doesn't lose speed whatsoever. Kind of in the same boat as the TAL 154, except this thing can actually defend itself. Except this thing has the ability to defend itself with having a bit of turn rate, and this thing can't really defend itself because its real trademark is speed, and it's not that fast. And then when just for shits, really 264, it's pretty decent. It's a bomber, however. You're probably gonna die before you reach the base. I don't think bombers are all that. Holy fuck, talking is hard. I don't think bombers are all that when it comes to grinding. Then for rank 4, very easy one. And I know it's not on sale as of right now, but it will go on sale next week. And this thing for 50% off is... don't even have to talk about it. It's the D9, except it's premium, and you can grind all the way up to rank 5, all the way down to rank 1. D13, in my opinion, probably the best grinder you can get for the German tech tree. Mainly because it's premium, you can grind everything with it. The full up tiers are hella rough. 5.7 is rough against a certain amount of planes. Other than that, very solid pick, very good for grinding, good flight performance. It's however not very noob friendly unless you just want to head on everyone and perhaps go for bombers. It's pretty good at that, but in general the D13 is just a very solid grinder all around. Then we have the G6, which is probably better if this thing was a premium, which, you guessed it, it's in Sweden. It's gonna be S tier, but it's not a premium, but it's also very cheap. So this is kind of like in between here. It's a very good grinder, however it's not a premium. You are gonna not make as much SL, but it's a very good grinder. feel free to talisman this if you don't have it. Then we have the bane of everyone's existence, and the reason half the battle ratings and this BR are just unflyable, or at this rank I should say, the Junker 288. It's very consistent, but you're gonna hate yourself because you are only gonna be dropping bombs, you're gonna be killing some guys with the gunner, and you're gonna be losing 60% of your matches because again it's 6v6. You have 3 other bombers in your team, and the other 2 guys are probably Dornier 335s with the 30mm. There's a reason it's not on this list. It's just because, well, you're gonna be in that kind of team, and your real performance is your guns, and if your enemy doesn't fly into your guns, you're gonna do absolutely nothing. You can probably put it in B tier, but I don't recommend you to buy it. Then we have the F8, which is more of a... it's gonna be a B tier. You have an air spawn, now it's gonna be an A tier. It's gonna be an air spawn. And that's really all there is to it. If this thing didn't have an air spawn, it would be at the B tier. But it does have an air spawn, so it makes it a lot more consistent. You can kill some bombers at the start. You can probably kill 1 or 2 guys at the start that are AFK climbing or something like that. It's just very strong in that manner. However, it's still a 190. And the 5.0, that 6.0 up tier is really gonna do you in. The D13 or the Doras are just a much better plane overall. And then we have some planes that are both pretty good, but also not that great at grinding. We have the G2 drop, which is simply just a worse G6. We have the K4, which is a better G6, however at 5.7, which means what BR? The same BR as the TAR 152H1. The C3 can probably also be at this B tier, mainly because they have an air spawn and a good amount of guns. You can get some stuff done, but these 5.7 to 6.0 German planes, I recommend you to either bring a squad mate, or 2, or maybe even 3, or perhaps be very experienced at the game. I find it very fun to deal with these small matches where you are 1v6. But if it's not your cup of tea, you're gonna absolutely load these 3 planes. If you do like it, however, if you are in for a challenge, it's pretty fun to fly. However, it's not that fantastic for grinding. However, with 5.7 and the 6.0 TAR and the K4, you're gonna need to do a lot of pulling around your team around, which means you have to do a lot, which means you're going to get more kills. If you value your SL, however, you're probably going to lose a lot and you're probably going to die a lot. But hey, if you don't mind, it's an absolute grind fest, but it's going to make you a better player. And then for rank 5, a bit of a controversial one. I'm going to put 262A1 in here, but it's the Jabo, and guess what? It has an air spawn. Noticing a trend yet? Airspawn planes are pretty fucking good at grinding. Why? Well, because they have an airspawn. The Jabo is pretty solid right now. The matchmaker is absolutely packed. You get a pretty decent amount of down tiers as well. And if you get down tiers to 6.0, you are gonna be absolutely shredding those props around. But if they don't want to fight you, you're gonna have a little bit of an issue. You'll see very soon enough with my 262A2 video. Then we have the ME163, which I'm also gonna put in A tier, mainly because at 8.0 you are actually pretty strong. Video on this thing pretty soon again. It's maneuverable, it accelerates well. The guns leave a little bit to be desired at 8.0. They are very, very slow, but you need to get very close or get the enemy very slow to kill them properly. It's not for the faint of heart if you want more than 1 kill, but it's a pretty good plane. Then we have the 162, and yes, I know, it's actually pretty good. This thing can be very good against props. Yet again, if your enemy props are good at the game, it's gonna be a stalemate and it's gonna be hella boring. Then I'm gonna put the MiG-15 in B tier for the same reason I put the F-25 at B tier. It's a good plane, but the full up tiers are pretty rough. Even 9.0 can be a little bit rough. 9.3 is very common and is not very enjoyable. And then we have the G91R4. I would put this thing at C tier when it comes to the sheer flight performance. However, it's a premium, so it's gonna go up 1 BR simply because, well, you're gonna get a lot of value out of it. However, it's not a very consistent grinder. Then we reach rank 6. And from here on out, it really becomes annoying to rank these planes. Why? Because the best plane here for grinding is gonna be the Hunter F85. 58. Issue. This Talisman doesn't go on sale. So, I'm gonna put it here, but it's going to be here because it's not on sale. It's gonna be relatively expensive. But if you are watching this outside of a sale and you just want to know what the Talisman, then the F58 is gonna be an A tier. You have flares, you have decent missiles, good speed, And it basically alleviates most of the problems that the FGA has for only 0.4 BR extra. And I think this is a very good pick when it comes to grinding the German nation, if you already have everything up until rank 5. Because of course, a squadron vehicle won't be able to research anything down to rank 4, 3, 2 and 1. Well, it can research, but you're gonna get a massive penalty. Then we have the MiG-19S, which I'm gonna put at B to C tier. Incredible performance, but as you have seen in the video that I uploaded very recently, it's not very good at grinding unless you are an absolutely cracked player, and even then, it takes you quite a while to kill people, and because it does take quite a while to kill people, you're probably just gonna be setting up enemies for your friendlies, and that doesn't get you any RP, so it's a good plane, not a fantastic grinder. The G91R3, kind of in the same boat as with the MiG-15 BIS. It's a good plane, it's pretty decent, it's pretty fun. However, the matchmaker on this thing isn't very favorable. And it's just too slow and it loses too much speed. The 30mm are good, much better plane than the R4, do not get me wrong. Between these two, the R3 is miles ahead. Mainly because it doesn't only have 450 cals. But it's not a premium. And the matchmaker still fucking blows. Then we have rank 7, and rank 7 is a bit of an odd one, because if the F5E didn't exist, all these planes would basically move up one place. And especially after this sale, let me tell you people, the F5C is going to be everywhere again, and you're going to hate yourself. So we have the 104G, the F4F, which are basically interchangeable. We have the MiG-21F, MF I should say. And these planes are pretty solid, they're pretty fun to fly, they are close to A tier, but there's just too many A5s flying around, or too many F5s flying around, and they really just don't make your life enjoyable. Then we have the MiG-23 MLA, which I'm gonna put at A tier. It's just a very solid plane, it can handle the up tiers somewhat. It's not very fun to fight F-16s, it's not very fun to fight the MiG-29s, especially with the MiG-29G coming into the mix. But at 11.3 you will find yourself get 11.0 to 11.7 games a decent amount of times, which means that it's pretty good. It's close to B tier. It all's kind of the same old. And then we have this thing, the Lazur M. Now, this flight performance is kind of iffy. It's not that fast. It does accelerate quite well. It only has 6 missiles that aren't very fantastic. And at 11.0, you are going to be sucked into that matchmaker that I just talked about, and you are going to be better off in the MLA. However, for some reason, every good player that I ask says Lazur is hot trash. Every other player, and I'm not meaning this in an insulting way, I mean everyone outside of like the top 5% that I know, they say that they kind of like it. I put a poll up the other day, everyone kind of liked it. So I'm not really sure where to rate this thing. If I have to go for my own experience and my own verdict, I'm going to put this in a low B tier, but B tier because it's a premium. If I have to go by the majority vote, I have to put it between B and A. A lot of people don't mind it and a lot of people like it. So wait for the sale, but do not get this thing for 70 bucks for the 20th time on my channel. Never buy these things full price. They are not worth 70 bucks or even 99 bucks if you are from Australia. Fun fact. But yeah, that's Germany. If I really have to advise you anything, get the D13. It will be on the pack sale. And then you can grind all the way up until rank 5. And then you want to Talisman, maybe the Jabo or the MiG-15 BIS. Even if you are an enjoyer of this plane, it's a very diverse plane. Or what you can do is get a Talisman on the F58 if you have it outside of the sales. Germany is just kind of what do you like to use. I can't really summarize it. The only real plane that I can recommend here is the D13 and the Yak 1B. The F58 I can recommend, but it's not on sale. It's pretty expensive and not many people have it because it takes an absolute metric ton to grind. I can't really recommend the Lazur, but if I have to go by anything that you guys are saying, it seems to be pretty decent, at least for grinding. I just don't think it's a very enjoyable experience. And then we arrive at Russia, and Russia is actually pretty damn simple. Mainly because there are 2 planes that are so good that you basically don't have to look at the rest of the tech tree. Granted, they are on sale. The first one is the Su-11, absolutely fantastic. You can grind all the way down to rank 6. And then Talisman, one of the few planes that we will get into in a second. And the rank 7 premium is probably the best premium in terms of rank 7s in the game. It's the best competitively, it's the most consistent, and it's somewhat immune to up tiers because the flight performance is so damn good. So if you are looking for the quick rundown of it, these two planes are absolute no-brainers, together with the Yak 3U if you are someone that really likes props. Even though this thing is at 6.0, but let's get right into it. Let's remove them yet again, and let's look at the actual rundown of it. So, Germany. So, Russia. Pretty damn simple. We have the Sikorsky's I-153. We have the Yak-2 cap. This is an airspawn bully. This is a biplane with good guns. And then you have the two airspawn planes that just kind of bully low tier players. Not much to talk about here. The flight performance of these two isn't that great. However, you are at 1.3 and 2.3. It doesn't matter how good your plane is. You're gonna be killing them anyway. Then we have the Yak-1B at 3.0. It's a very good plane. I'm gonna put it like near A tier because it's not a premium. But it's a very good plane. Even if your enemies are good, you are going to be killing them. And let me tell you, they won't be. So you are going to be killing them twice over in the same game. And then we have the MiG-3, basically the same thing as the MiG-315. Except it has more guns, also gets an airspawn. And it just bullies the shit out of everyone that's climbing AFK at the start of the game. Which most people do at this BR. Then we have rank 3, which is basically Yak-Fest. We have the Yak-3 as well as the Yak-9U. Two absolutely fantastic planes. They are kind of similar, but they fill different roles. The Yak-9U is stupendously quick, and the Yak-3 is very, very maneuverable. So it's a little bit of a toss-up. The Yak-9U is probably better when it comes to RRB, whereas the Yak-3 is just better in terms of small fights, dogfighting people, and you can throw it around a little bit more. I prefer the Yak-3 because it's a little bit more maneuverable, but the Yak-9U is a little bit more rewarding to play, because it doesn't hold your hand as much, but they are both very good planes and you can't go wrong with either of them. Then you have the LA-7. It's close to these two planes, but just was enough to the point where I say it's the A rank. It does have more ammo in the guns, it has more firepower altogether, and it's a little bit quicker. They're all very closely matched here. I can probably put this in S, I can probably put them all in A, it doesn't really matter. These planes are very closely matched, they are all very good. Can't go wrong with either of them. If you have the premium LA-7, you're golden. You don't have to worry about the rest. Then we go to rank 4. We have some very good planes and some good ones that are kind of awkward. We have the D9, which is very good because it's at 5.0. We have the Yak-3U or the VK-107. They are basically identical. It's slightly worse at lower altitudes. It's better between 4.5 and 6 kilometers. And then above 6 kilometers, the Yak-3U is better again. It also overheats quite a bit more, but the performance is insane, even though you are going to be in that Junker 288 BR range, where you have to fight against the 6v6 bomber horde, but it's still very consistent. It's a premium, you can't really go wrong with this thing. Chevac's absolutely slap right now. No contest. It's a very good plane, as well as the fact that the Russian matchmaker doesn't get sucked into that 6v6 nearly as often as Russia or America and Germany do. It's mostly those two nations against each other. It's F2G versus Junker 288. With the Russians, you don't have to worry about it nearly as much, and the matchmaker is a little bit more forgiving. That's why I'm putting it at S tier. If the matchmaker reverts back to the 6v6 bomber matchmaker, I'm probably putting it back to A tier, because then the D9 is just better. But you can't really go wrong with either of them. The Yak-3 is, in my opinion, a better plane than the VK-107, but it's not a premium, so it's going to go to A tier. And you might not be able to buy it because you haven't bought anything in the Russian line yet, so you need a premium. Then these two come in very, very handy. Then you have the I-225, which in my opinion is one of my favorite planes in the entire game. It's very rewarding to play. It's, however, not very consistent, and you need to be knowing what you are doing. Otherwise, you are going to be absolutely rinsed in this thing. It's very unorthodox. It flies very weirdly, but it's a lot of fun if you get it down. That's why I'm putting it on here anyway. I can probably put it on arguable, but it's a very good plane anyway, whether you are good with it or not. You just need a little bit of finesse to get the potential out of it. Then we have the Su-6. Funnily enough, this thing is extremely powerful. It has an airspawn. Make sure to equip the 23mm, some of the best guns in the entire game. And with the airspawn, the gunner, and just the heavy armor that this thing has, and it actually does turn quite okay. Your main drawback here is absolute energy generation at like super low speeds. and the fact that it's not that quick. You are going to be struggling outrunning people, but it's an absolute frag-mobile that you can kind of just toss into the enemy team, just shoot at everything, get 2-3 kills, and then just die. It's very good at that. And then we have the LA7. It's simply a worse version of the LA7 that we have at a higher BR, but it's still pretty good. B tier, A tier, they're basically interchangeable, but if you have to choose one, the LA7 regular version is going to be a better plane. And then we reach the rank, we already know what I'm putting here. Ashes 11, no-brainer, cheap, strong, good, well-rounded, and a good BR. This thing is an absolute slapper. Rank 5, good rewards. It has like 10 or 1,035% reward multiplier on the SL. It's just very good all around. Can't really go wrong with it. And then we have the LA15, which is in my opinion the next best thing. If it wouldn't snap, that'd be fantastic. LA15 together with the MiG-9 late. If you have the Su-11, it's miles ahead of the MiG-9 late, but 9.3 is still a pretty favorable matchmaker, and you are going to be getting away with it. LA15 is just a better plane. It's very diverse. It's at a good battle rating as well. These two might be up-tiered and down-tiered into each other very often. The thing is with the Russian lineup, the 8.0 lineup is very good, and so is the 7.3 lineup. So when you are in the 7.3 and you get fully up-tiered, you get very solid teammates, and it doesn't really matter all that much. The MiG-9 is worse than the LA-15 in terms of matchmaker and performance, but I do think that they are both roughly A tier. And then we have the MiG-15 BIS, same boat as the F-25 as well as the G91s, and the MiG-15 regular, which is just a worse 15 BIS. This time it has a lower battle rating, but it also has no advantages over its bigger brother. So I'm going to put them both in B tier. They're very good, but again, susceptible to up tiers, which you don't want to happen. Then we reach rank 6, which is a bit of a clusterfuck. We have the bomber dads in their Su-7s. Not much to talk about here. You can rush in. It's extremely fast. You'll reach the bases before anyone else does. You can drop your bombs and then go RTB. Perhaps even equip some rocket pods for flares. Go fighter mode. You can do whatever in the Su-7. Just be careful. Missiles are pretty powerful at this BR, and if you aren't aware of them and you don't kit yourself out for them, you're still going to eat the AIM-9L, because you are going to be facing A-10s pretty often. Then we have the MiG-21S, and I'm going to put it like in between A and B. It's a very good plane, but it doesn't have the best missiles. It's a premium, however. If it wasn't a premium, it'd be in B tier. It's a good plane, but you don't have flares, so you need to sacrifice one of your pylons for a rocket pod, basically, which means you can carry less missiles. You only have 3 missiles now, and the missiles aren't that fantastic anyway. I don't recommend you to buy this thing. If you buy a premium, you're better off with the Su-11 or the MiG-23, but you can buy it if you want. You can't really go wrong with it, but it's not very brain dead, and it does take quite a bit of finesse to play. Then we have the Yak-38, which is basically in the same boat. The thing is, it has brain dead missiles, and they can't really flare your missiles. Or if they don't have flares, they basically can't dodge your missile. The issue is, if people shoot a missile at you, and it doesn't really matter what missile it is, you're gonna be eating it, because this thing is an absolute boat. It's the sussy Hoover sausage from Russia. It's not very enjoyable to play, but it's very brain dead, because you have 4 R60s at the time of recording. And then we have the Su-25, which is kind of between B and C. I think it's slightly better than the A-10 in Air RB. However, it's still a ground pounder, but it's a good bit faster, accelerates better, and you can actually reach some ground units, or perhaps the middle of the fight, to shoot missiles at flareless planes, because it's also a lower BR, because it's actually somewhat quick. Don't recommend it, but it works. And then we have the MiG-19 PT, same boat as with the MiG-19S. It's a good plane, but it takes a while to kill people. And that means you're just going to be setting people up so they can quote-unquote steal your kills. Don't recommend it, but it's not too bad. Then we have rank 7, MiG-23 ML. It's pretty immune to up tiers. Sure, MiG-29s, sure, F-16s are rough, but it goes for every plane here. And 11.3 is pretty decent in terms of matchmaker, and it has a very good airframe. Then we have the MiG-23 MLD, which in my opinion is the better version of the ML. However, it's not a premium. You only are able to resource 2 ranks with it, because there's not a rank above it either. So you kind of end up just... It's good for grinding the MiG-23 only. If you already are at rank 7, but that's about it. The MiG-23 ML is a very good deal, and I recommend you to buy it as long as it goes on sale for the 20th time. Then we have the SMT MiG-21. I'm going to put it roughly the same BR as the MiG-21 MF, the 104G. I just completely lost my train of thought. With the German one, rank B, that entire bracket, the 104G, the F4F, the MiG-21 MF, those planes. But it's a better version. But it's still gonna struggle in that 10.3 matchmaker where there is gonna be 3 billion F5Es flying around. It's just very annoying, but it's still pretty good if you get a decent matchmaker. And then we have the Su-25K, which is kind of in the same boat as this one. Maybe A tier because it's a premium. Yeah, kind of in between. It's decent. Better grinder than the A10 in my opinion, at least in the average RRB match. And then we have this absolute shit brick. I'm just putting it in here so people know I didn't forget it. Do not, under any circumstance, buy the fucking Su-39. That's all I'm gonna say. And then we have Britain, and Britain is always a bit of a rough one. The props are okay, but overall it's a bit of an L moment. It's not because I hate Britain, it's because Gaijin hates you guys. And, I mean, you know by now that Gaijin hates you. Let's take a look at the rank 7 lineup, shall we? Everything in due time. We have rank 1, and all I can say here is Britain Momento. There is nothing here. The best plane for Britain at rank 1 is the Fury. Do I really need to say anything else? Then for rank 2, we luckily have a good plane. We have the Corsair F Mark II. It's a clipped-wing Corsair, basically the Mark 1A that we discussed earlier. It's very fast, doesn't turn particularly great. This one does have improved roll stability at higher speeds as well as lower speeds. It's a pretty good plane. It is a premium, so luckily you don't have to buy any rank 1s anyway, and you can just skip straight to rank 2. Even if you are a free-to-play player, this is one of the nations where you want to do this, because rank 1 is absolutely insufferable in RRB. Then in rank 2 there are some other planes that are pretty good. We have the Typhoon Mark 1A. In my opinion, it's a better plane than the Corsair. However, it's not premium. Then we have the Spitfire Mark 5B Trop. It's a low tier Spitfire. There's really not much to say about it. Turns okay, it's not too slow. It's an average Spitfire. That isn't completely terrible, but that's also why it's only at the B tier. Then we reach rank 3, where there's actually quite a bit of decent stuff. You have the Mark 1A Mustang. Same deal as with the American one. You're gonna be slapping 3.3, the 2.3 players around with 420mm. That essentially one-shot everything they touch. Do I really need to say anything else? Then we have the same deal, but at a higher BR, we have the Mustang Mark 1B-8. Do not confuse this with the premium one. The premium Typhoon has the same horsepower out of the box, basically, when it's spaded, as the Mark 1B late does when it's stock. So you are just essentially flying around a stock stock Typhoon. Don't really recommend it. This one, however, is fantastic, but it's not premium. If this thing was premium, I'd put it beyond S tier. It is just that good. And then we have the Spitfire Mark 9, probably one of the best Spitfires tier for tier in the game. However, it's not fantastic for grinding, and therefore we are putting it in the B tier. Then we reach rank 4, absolute no-brainer. Unfortunately, not on sale as of right now, but it should go on sale next week with the packs. Wyvern, stupendous performance, 650 kilometers an hour on the deck. You will be outrunning some 6.0 planes, and you can't even see them. This thing is disgusting, do be careful. It's not the best in maneuvering, it loses a lot of speed very quickly, but it's fast. You have 1200 rounds of 20mm, and you get an airspan. So this thing is just very good when it comes to grinding. Then you have, for rank 4, we have the Hornet Mark 1, mainly because it's a premium. I'm gonna put it in between A and B. It's also very good at killing Junker 288s, let me tell you. Why? Because you have a 2 kilometer airspan, you're hella fast, and you have hella good acceleration. This thing, when it comes to just slamming bombers out of the air for GE, probably the best bet. You're gonna have a lot of wins, because the Germans just don't win anything at this BR. Altogether, pretty good pickup. And then we also have the absolute dumpster fire of the rest of rank 4. And I'm just gonna do this. We have the rank B trash bin, because it doesn't all fit in the same place. We have the Hornet Mark 3. We have the Sea Fury Mark B11, we have the LF Mark 9, we have the Tempest Mark 2, and we have the Spitfire. Okay, I'm getting rid of the trash bin. It's a pretty decent lineup here. I'm all gonna put them at rank B. Hornet is like in between, mainly because it's not a premium. This thing is basically, it's better than the premium one, however, it's not a premium. Then you have the Spitfires, which are good. I recommend the LF Mark 9 over the Mark 16. Is that a 16? The 14E. The Tempest Mark 2 is pretty decent, and the Sea Fury is just the worst Tempest. Overall, it's a bit of a clusterfuck, as you can tell. Honestly, for grinding, you're probably best off with the Hornet or with the LF Mark 9. However, the Wyvern is just going to be an absolute no-brainer because you can dodge that dumpster fire BR. Because you are going to be facing Germany a lot. It's not going to be very exciting. I told you with the Russian nation that you don't really see the 6.0 6v6 matchmaker very often. Britain gets sucked into it together with America very often. So you are just going to be struggling at this BR. But overall, it's a pretty decent lineup. There's just too much to pick from, and it's all kind of the same old, so I just whip the trash bin out. Don't start hating on me, I don't have anything against these planes, for the most part. Personally, massive fan of the Hornet, big fan of the Wyvern, and if I had to pick one of these, I'd probably pick the Tempest Mark II myself, because it's actually fast, and you can get to the bombers faster than something like a Spitfire. But it depends on your matchmaker, and it's a bit of a gamble fast, so I would personally just go for the Hornets. But that's my take. You might disagree or agree with it. Then rank 5 is actually pretty standard. I'll start off with the good ones. We have the Attacker FB2, mainly because it's a premium. It's 7.0, so you get a pretty decent BR. If you get down tier to the 6.0 meat grinder, you can bully bombers with an Attacker and a jet. You are just going to be outrunning them. You have 4 of the 20 mils. They are just going to be dying. Then we also have the Attacker FB1. Lower thing here because, well, it's not a premium, as you should be used to by now. Then we have the Mark 8 G41K. It's basically the Mark 8 Reaper, which I'm going to put in A rank because it's redder, which means it's 3 times faster. They're just meteors, not much to talk about here. If you don't like Spitfires or meteors, I got a thing for you. You're in the wrong nation. Then we also have the Sea Meteor, as well as the Meteor Mark III. They're pretty good planes, however they are a bit on the slow side. I think that the Mark III Sea Meteor is better in Araby. However, the Sea Meteor, the normal Meteor, this one, is just stupendously maneuverable. You can dogfight props in the thing. However, the Sea Meteor is a little bit quicker. But overall, I would just go with the Mark 8. Because it's faster. The only issue is because the map's got bigger, you can't really run min fuel anymore. I'm making a video on it as we speak, but overall, this nation is kind of barren. I would say get the Attacker, safest bet. Very free wins when you get down tiered and when you get up tiered. It's not the best plane, but at 7.0, you shouldn't be facing 8.0 all that often. Then we also have the Sea Vixen. And before I was saying S, then I went to B tier, and now it's kind of in between B and A. It's pretty consistent, but it's wholly fucking boring. I'm going to put it in B tier actually, because 8.7 now gets up tiered quite often. It's a rough plane, but the red tops got kind of buffed last patch. They have a very narrow FOV now when you launch them. They're a little bit harder to flare. I don't recommend it. Get the Attacker or the Mark 8 Reaper, but I don't need to explain it because you can see it's a tier list. Fantastic, I know, right? And then we start reaching the struggle BRs. Rank 6 is still somewhat decent. We have the Jaguar GR1, which I think is pretty good. Gonna put it in between A and B. Pretty funny that I use in between A and B when I literally don't use the C tier. But you know, we don't do things conventionally out here. Then we have the Javelin, which is pretty fantastic. It's kind of awkward, but for an 8.3, the performance is pretty good. 4 missiles, good guns. Just a little bit awkward to handle and just overall not the best plane. And the Scimitar as well, it's very good, but it's awkward to use. Don't recommend it if you aren't very good at the game. And then the Jaguar in between here, just to go back on it. The main reason, you have good missiles, only 2 of them however, and you have flares, which is definitely welcome. Probably closer to B tier actually. Overall, bit rough. I would go with the Javelin. And then we reach the real trash bin. I cannot recommend... Nope. I cannot recommend any of these in good faith. But I need to put something there. So this is a massive disclaimer. The only thing that I can in good faith, recommend to you guys, and you're gonna laugh your ass off when you see this thing come into the screen, is the F4J UK, or also known as the F4 Junk. And it's trash. And so I'm gonna put it over here, just for in case someone screenshots it. And the only reason I'm gonna put it in arguable is because it is a rank 7 premium, which means you only have to buy one thing, and instead of struggling through all these planes and not knowing what to go for, having to spade them again and not knowing how to play it, you only have to struggle in one plane. And I know this sounds absolutely terrible, but this is the only thing I can truthfully recommend. And then we also have the Sea Harriers. This one won't go on sale. This one is better, but also a higher BR. They're kind of in the same BR range every game. They're just kind of shit. So I'm just gonna hit you with this one. Britain Momento. I cannot... it's probably better if I put it here, actually. Let's go. There we go. But yeah, Britain is a bit of a rough one. It is grindable. I can't, in good faith, recommend the F4 Junk. But it's also the only redeeming part of the grind, because then you only have to get used to one plane, I guess. You can just kind of turn your brain over, start bombing and stuff like that. It's a bit of a rough nation to grind past rank 5. Rank 6 is doable, but rank 7 and 8 is an absolute hellhole. And with the F4 Junk, at least you'll get more SL and you lose less when you die. That's really the only way that I can say this. It's not an enjoyable grind, but you have to get through it somehow to reach the tornado, I guess. Yeah, there's really no reason to grind past the props in this nation. They have nothing really that's super unique. Because the Meteor that I say is one of the better planes here is in the Israeli tech tree as well. But yeah, that's it. And then we reach Japan. And Japan is a bit of a weird one because it has some of the best low tier grinders in the game. They're very easy. Some of the best SL grinders in the game, as you might have seen in the intro. And they make up for this by having some of the worst high tier grind in the entire game. Anything past rank 5 is basically CBT. There is no other way to discuss this. We have something here where I will recommend the F4EJ ADTW if you care about top tier planes, for the sole reason that you don't have to play rank 5 and rank 6 as well as rank 7, because the rank 7 plane is essentially this thing. Instead, it's not premium. So it's hell. That's the only way I can describe it. You're not gonna have fun in this plane, and you're essentially buying this thing to potentially get the F15 or maybe the Mitsubishi F2 in the future. As of right now, the only thing that's worth at the end of the line here is the F16 AJ, which has the best flight performance out of the F16s, and it has the AIM-9Ls with the AIM-7Ms. That's the only trade-off. So if it wasn't for the F16, this thing wouldn't exist. I would say just skip past the props. You don't have to worry about it, because there's really nothing unique. But let's get right into it. At the start, we have some of the worst here. Key 27, as well as the Key 27. The decent planes, but pea shooter guns. And, well, they're not going to get much done. Luckily for you, rank 2 has some of the strongest planes in the entire lineup. We have the FU-1A, except it's premium. We have the BF-109 E7, except it's premium. I've discussed these two planes in Britain, America, and this one in Germany. They're good. They're very, very good. This thing is more fun to fly. I would personally get the E7 over the FU-1A. However, the FU-1A can be played more passively, can be played more safely, so you don't die as much. However, the E7 is just much more fun. Then we have the two Key 44s. We have the Key 44 with good performance and shit-ass guns. And we have the Key 44 with good performance, but decent guns. The Key 44s, not much to talk about here. They are basically hand-holdy planes. I will put this in A, but it's not a premium, so I'm going to put it in B, otherwise B is kind of empty. Just take it from me. Key 44s are absolute bullshit. They used to be like 2.7, I think, 2.3, and then they buffed the Japanese 50 cals, and now we're all the way up to 3.7, which is pretty fantastic if you ask me, considering they took quite a while to up-tier them. Then we reach the P-51C 11. It's a P-51C, one of the best planes in the entire game. It's rank 3, you can do events with it as well, and it's a premium. Not much to talk about. Then we have the J2M2, still a baller plane, absolutely insane performance. It's at rank 3 now, so you can again do tasks with it, so you don't get ejected. But in general, I would just get this thing instead, because it has premium, and this thing does not. Rank 3, you're gonna burn through it pretty quickly. Then we have the key 100 for good measure. It's probably closer to C tier than B tier, but it's a premium, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but it's just a key 61. And then we reach the most stacked BR in the entire game, or the stacked rank in the entire game. We have the A7M1. Very good, very easy. S-hold plane, you just hold your elevator, you will outturn basically anything. Doesn't have the big drawbacks that most of these zeros have. It's still decently quick, and it's still stupendously maneuverable. But I'm also going to slap in the A7M2. Slightly lower, I want to put it like in between here. I'm going to put it at B, so I can actually utilize a C tier, because there's just simply too many planes here. A tier is empty for now. I'm going to put it in the J2M5 over there. It's not as good as it was, because the 30mm got nerfed a little bit. It's still a great plane, 4.7, very favorable matchmaker. If your aim is bad, however, this is going to be a B or maybe even a C tier plane. Limited ammo, a limited volume, and a very low fire rate, as well as the guns being spread about quite far. Then we have the Key 84 Co. Very good plane. And again, luckily at 5.3, 5.0, you're luckily not as susceptible to the Junker 288 spam. It still happens sometimes, but it's nearly as bad as with Germany, Britain, and America. When you do get sucked in, you're not going to get the Junker 288s on your team. So even though I put the Hornet at rank A, I'm going to put this one at rank B, because it serves roughly the same purpose, but you're not going to be running into as many bombers. So in terms of a grinder, this is not going to be as fantastic. Now we have the J2M2, or M3, as well as the J2M5. These are the higher tier versions. Still good planes, not fantastic. They can go anywhere. You can't really go wrong with them, but I wouldn't really call them that good either. Then we have the J6K, and I'm going to put this at A tier simply because it's an absolute frack machine. 620 mils, 1200 rounds of guns, and then also the 30mm as backup. You can just kind of point at everything you want and just destroy them. You don't have to struggle with the Bomber BR as much, but you will suffer some up tiers, and fighting jets in this thing is not a lot of fun. Use at your discretion. It's not very cheap at the moment. It's just, if you already have it, you should be set for the props. And now we reach the point where I will just say, I cannot give you another tip other than buy this thing on sale. I'm going to skip the other two BRs for now, and just do yourself a favor. If you have the money to spare and you really want that Japanese top tier, and I don't recommend you to get it, but if you really want it, do yourself a favor and don't put yourself up for torture for 3 entire trees. Because this thing is also, it's equally bad. It's probably a C, maybe a B tier. It's not very good. Has decent missiles, but it's not the best. At 11.0 you can at least hope that you don't get fully up tiered, but it's rough. Then we have rank 5. I'm gonna go through it anyway. We have the F40 JSDF. This thing would be a C tier, but it's premium. I'm gonna put it in B. The Kika is okay. You can use this at A tier. If your aim is shit, yet again, is gonna be a B tier. Good performance, essentially a worse SU-11. And then we have the F86 F30. It's a copy-paste of the F25. Not the best experience, but it's flyable. And then we have the Key 200, which I'm also going to put at the B tier. Because, well, it's a 8.7 rocket plane that can run into stuff like the F-104. And talking about F-104s, we have the F-104J, which I'm going to put in with the... Okay, I'm going to put them all in at the same time. These are basically interchangeable, with the T2 being slightly better than the other two. The T2 got 2 AIM-9Ps, or AIM-9Js, as some of you might know them in the American tech tree. And it does help. And you can carry rocket pods on all of these planes. The F-104, you can carry 6 AIM-9Js right now, but you don't have flares. What you can do is exchange one of the missiles for a rocket pod, so you can somewhat flare. And it's the same deal with the F1. You can put a rocket pod in between your missiles, so you can still carry 4 of them. But this is just an absolutely painful BR. And then when you finally get through it, you have to fly the EJ Phantom 2. Now, in my opinion, yet again, just get the ADTW, so at least when you die you don't lose that much, and when you kill people you get a lot of SL. That's the only redeeming point of this, and don't see this as me trying to shell or sell the ADTW, it's not a good plane. It's not a good plane, but it saves you a lot of suffering. Then we have China, and China is overall pretty simple because most of you will be grinding the Chinese tech tree for the jets. So I'm gonna start at rank 7 this time around because anything below that is essentially copy paste. So I'm gonna start off with the A5C. I'm gonna put it at a very conservative A rank. It's in the same boat as the MiG-21 MF, the SMT, the J6A and all those planes. Not the J6A, I'm sorry, but all those other rank B planes. It has magics, it has good acceleration. The only reason it's here is because it's a premium. If this thing wasn't a premium, it'd be at the B rank. And the same reason I'm putting the Q5A at the B rank, just because it's not very good at killing people quickly. Sure, it has flares, good acceleration, it's virtually untouchable. It's not very good at killing other people. Then we have the F-104A, kind of in the same boat, very fast, very good for staying fast and just mowing down people. However, you don't have any flares, so I might move it slightly over the B tier, low B tier for grinding, just because you are going to be cancelled in a lot of your games. It's a good plane, but it's also kind of rough to play. And then we have the Shenyang F5, if you have it. I'm going to put it at a C tier. 9.3 gets up tiered very often, and this thing does not have the speed like the F-104A does to get away from people. This plane is pretty fun to fly if you are just completely down tier to 8.3. You don't have to worry about too many missiles. But with missiles in the mix, this plane is a big fat L. Then we have the F5E, and I put the other one at rank S. I'm gonna put this one at A rank, because the Chinese teams right now are absolutely unflyable. I flew this thing the other day, got 4.5 kills per game, like an actual one, not my imagination. And I had a 40% win rate. With the American one, I got a 2 kills per battle, and I got an 80% win rate. So to give you an idea, the teams here just fucking collapse. Other than that, it's identical. The plane itself is S tier, but in terms of grinding, because you just lose everything and you die every other game, I'm gonna put it at an A tier anyway. And then we have the J7E, same deal here. I put it at A tier, but the teams are just too shit. Very good plane, very fun to fly still, even though with the teams being so bad. I make a video on this thing pretty quickly here. But it's a rough one right now. Then we have the F-104G. I'm going to put it at C tier. Why? Maybe B to C. No flares, 10.7. You need to run a rocket port. And it's rough. It's hella rough. Then the J7D. I mean, it has flares, I guess. But, I mean, I'll put it at like a low C tier, a low B tier, high C. But it's a rough plane. Now we reach the battle ratings where it doesn't really matter anymore. The CW21, it's S tier. Very good, stupendous performance. Not really much to talk about. It's just a biplane that turns slightly worse but has an absolute warp drive of an engine. It's not very fast, however. Then we have the P40, basically. I'm going to put it at the B tier. It's good because you fight 2.3 people. You don't really have to worry about anything. We have the P47 D30. Same deal as the P47 D28. Good plane. Don't have to worry too much about the Junker 288 spam. And you have 850 cals, good performance, close to the P47M. That is at 5.7. And you can ground pound afterwards, which is pretty handy. Then we have the Key 44. Hey, nice little voice crack over there. And then we have, yeah, I've been talking for like 1.5 hours straight, so forgive me for a second. Key 44 is just a good plane. Then we have the P38L, same deal as with the American one, as well as with this one. They're identical to the LO, and this one is basically identical to the P51 D30. Key 84 Co, S tier, yes, 5.3, might get up tier to 6.0, but there's not that many F2Gs to run into, because they're all sucked up into the German matchmaker. Aren't you just fucking lucky? And that's really all there is at rank 4. We have the LA9, but I'm going to put that at an absolute low B tier, as it's just not very gaming. F84G, it's the premium version, so I can put this one at A tier. And then we have the copy-paste. The J2 is a MiG-15. MiG-9 late is, well, a MiG-9 late. The F84G is going to be the F84G, but a copy-paste. F30, yeah, I don't really need to get over this. I think I'm not really sure where I put this one exactly. It's a rough plane, 9.0. It's not very good. I'm going to put it at C. China, kind of an L. Other than, of course, the top tier jets, but the teams are just too bad. It's rough right now. But there's also not much to get at high tier, so you don't have to put yourself through it in the same way that it works with the Japanese tech tree. And then we have Italy. It's also a pretty simple one, not too many planes to pick from, and they're all pretty similar. If you like these planes, you're gonna like all of them basically, and if you don't like them, you're probably gonna hate the entire tech tree. Let's start with the Macaronis CR42. I'm not able to cut out the other one for some reason. I'm putting this in A, the normal one is in B tier. Then we have rank 2, we have the Gruppo, as well as the C202D. Not sure if this is still available, but these are pretty good for grinding. They're not fantastic planes, but they get the job done. And then these are basically at a lower BR, because, well, it's the same thing, but at a lower BR, and it's not a premium. Then we have the SM91, a little bit between B and C. It's good in terms of having a lot of guns, being able to just slam people out of the air at the start of the game. However, the flight performance is absolute dog water. Don't expect too much from it. Then we have the G55, so I have the... I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Series 0. I'm going to put this at a B tier to A tier, probably in between it. It's pretty decent. One of the few G55s that's actually pretty good. Do keep in mind you don't have a lot of guns. You are going to struggle in that department. And then we have the P47, the D30 yet again for the third time in today's list, as well as the premium VB Trop, which I'm going to put at EA rank. Low BR. Again, it can somewhat hang with zeros in a dogfight, and that should tell you all you need to know. Then we have a rank 4, we have the RE 2005 Series 0. In terms of a grinder, this thing is fantastic. It's not a good plane, however. I'm a bit torn between A and B. It's a good plane in terms of grinding, but the performance isn't there. But for some reason, everyone just wants to dogfight you. The second they stop doing that for some reason, this will instantly drop to a B or maybe even a C, because the flight performance is equal to the plane at 4.3. It's a Mark 9 Spitfire. That's a little bit rough. Then we have the G2. It's the non-tropical variant. It's slightly better. It's premium. It's going to be at a B rank. Then we have the C205 Series 0. I was going to putting that at a B rank. No premium here. It's not very maneuverable anymore. Not the best at dogfighting. But it has good power and it has a very good climb rate. Then we reach rank 5 and we are yet again going to plop in the F84G. Then we have the G91 Pre-Series. We have the G91 R4, which are both kind of okay. And then we have the R1, which is the R4, but without premium and without missiles or bullpups. So this is just a gimped version of it. And unlike the Pre-Series, it's not at a lower BR, 8.7. I'm going to put it at a B tier. All in all, not that fantastic. Then we have a controversial one considering the rest of this tier list. And you might look at this weirdly, because I'm going to put a subsonic plane at 9.3 at the A rank. Now, why is that? Yes, all aspect missiles absolutely cancel you, but anything that doesn't have all aspect missiles, you rinse. No contest. If you stay clear of A10s, if you stay clear of Su-25s, you use the terrain. The second you pass anything in the head-on, it's dead. Other than the MiG-19s, basically. But the MiG-19s are forced to run away from you. So, basically anything that dogfights you and actually sticks to fight is going to lose. Then we have the Sagittario. It's a slightly worse version. I'm going to put it at A.5-ish. Mainly because it's at a low BR, but it's also not a premium. So I'm going to put it at roughly a B. And then we have the F104G. We've seen this one a lot today. I'm going to put this one at the B rank as well. Just because you don't have much of an answer to the American teams. Keep in mind, with the Aardvark coming out, it might change a little bit. Then we have rank 7. I'm going to put this at A.5 for the reason that Ariete is, in my opinion, a better grinder. And then you can just either Talisman the F104S or you can Talisman the ASA. They're F104s with good missiles. I would personally, if the matchmaker isn't too bad, go for the ASA, but it depends a bit on what you are getting. If you are getting constantly up tier to 12.3, get the regular S. If you constantly get normal matchmaker, you can try the Talisman, the ASA. Overall, pretty similar playstyles. The only real difference is that one has AIM-9Ls and the other one has more missiles. It has 6 of them and it has AIM-9Js. And then we have France, and France is a little bit of an L. We do have a pretty decent amount of planes. However, they're all kind of mid or just not really it. Front is one of those planes, if you want the Mirage 2000, I cannot really propose anything other than the Mirage F1C. This plane is not very good. You only have 2 good missiles. It's the Magic 2s that you have. And then you have the 530D Supers. They're pretty dog shit. And then you also have the Chonker missile on the bottom, the regular 530. It's okay, it's pretty funny, but it's not gonna win many rewards. But the beauty of this BR is, or this plane is, that you can circumvent the absolute suffering that is the rest of this bracket. At rank 6 you really have nothing other than the E10 Dart IVM, and that's a low B tier. It's not very good. You used to have the Milan, which you could kind of bomb rack with. Doesn't really work anymore. Then we have the Yak tree for the French as well. You can ask Glitched how much this thing costs outside of the sales, and that's enough if you want the props. So really for France, if you want to grind the entire tech tree, or if you just care about props, get one of the premiums. There's really no way around it. The rest is all kind of mid. There are some planes that do work, like in tier 1 we have the H75A4 and we have the H75A1. The A1 I'm gonna put at B, high B, and the A4 at A. The A has a much better performance, however the matchmaker of the H or the A1 is simply vastly superior. Then we have 3 of the airspawn planes for rank 2. We have the POTAS 630, we have the 631, which doesn't have the number behind it for some reason, and we have the MB175T. They all kind of go without saying. They're not fantastic, but they're pretty fun, and at the BR the Red, they are definitely... they get stuff done. Then we have the SB2C, same deal as with the American one. And then we have the MB157, absolutely great performance, but it only has 2 guns with 60 rounds per guns. Not gonna do you that much good. Then we have the F8F as well as the F4U7. They're probably 8 here when you look at the French grind. However, when looking at the grand scheme of things, they'll probably be the C tier. The F1B, F8F1B is pretty good now. It doesn't really overheat that badly anymore because the thermodynamics got updated, which is definitely welcome. And that's why I'm gonna say it's now better than the F4U47. Used to be the other way around. I keep saying F4U47, but it's the F4U7. Then we have rank 5. We start entering the jets, and there's quite a few planes here. We have the MD452C, which I think is probably going to be the best one at this BR. It's not very good, but it's pretty fun to fly. We also have the Vautour 2N, and you might think that I'm trolling. That's kind of between arguable as well as B and A. You have the radar missiles, and if you run into some bombers, it's the freest farm you'll ever get. However, the performance isn't very good. It's still a Vautour, but it's at 8.3. The elevator is still bugged as of today. It doesn't turn whatsoever, so you have to fly this thing like an absolute brick shithouse. I mean, you have to do that with a Vautour anyway, but this thing is a brick shithouse compared to the other Vautours on top of that. Then we have the F84G as well as the Berugan. I think they're both quite similar in terms of performance. However, the Berugan is more fun to fly in my opinion, whereas the F84G is definitely more consistent. Then we also have the F86K. I don't really know where to put this. They're both kind of mid. Rank 6 is very rough, but I do think that the E10 Dart is better than the F86K, so I'm going to put it at rank B, and then the F86K at rank C. They're both kind of mid. You definitely want to skip this entire BR range. Unfortunately, you can't do such a thing unless you actually buy a premium. I would include the Milan here to just run as a bomb rack at rank A. However, it's not available anymore, and I'm kind of happy that I now can't promote the Milan because I absolutely despise that vehicle, but it was still a pretty consistent bomb rack vehicle. It's just not in the game anymore. And then we have rank 7. We have quite a few planes here. We have the Mirage 3E, which is good because of the flares. The flight performance isn't that great, and the Mirage 3C is definitely more enjoyable to play until someone shoots a missile at you, and then you're dead in the water. So the 3E is going to be here and the 3C is not. The Super E10 Dart is some plane that I would say is between A and B. I had a very good time in the thing. Most people, however, are saying the opposite. So I'm just going to put it at a conservative B tier. I wouldn't do it, but I enjoy flying it. And then we have the Mirage F1C-1200, which is okay as a grinder. But when it comes to an actual good plane, I'm going to put it at a low B tier. The only real reason this is up here is so you can circumvent rank 6. and rank 7 at the same time, because you end up having to fly this plane regardless. And then we also have this plane right here, the F1 CT, in case you are wondering. It's not going to be on the list. It's absolute dog shit. It has a slightly better radar, I believe, but the performance of that thing simply is not up to par. And then we have Sweden, and Sweden doesn't have much to choose from. It's all a pretty bare bones tech tree, and the only reason is because you want to prepare for something like the Gripen. But other than that, you are not really wealthy when it comes to options. Rank 1 I'm gonna skip again. There's just nothing there that I can even for 10 GE I wouldn't do it. There's nothing there. I'm gonna put the J22 in rank B.5. Has good guns. That's essentially it. The flight performance is pretty lackluster, but the 13mm slap incredibly hard. Then we have the Morco Moraine, or however you pronounce it. S tier, good performance. Unfortunately, an MG151, but a 2.3, it does get the job done. A little bit awkward to aim. Definitely not for the absolute noobs among us. Haha, funny. But in general, it's a very good pickup. B-18A, yeah, I'm not kidding you. As good as a bomber and as good as a heavy fighter. Just depends on how you want to fly it. And returning champion, the B-18, it's gonna be at rank A again at the 4.0 mark. Because you can intercept bombers, you can go for basically anything you want, and the gunner is very good. Overall, very solid plane. VL Puromirsky, probably one of my favorite props in the game. Basically just a better BF-19 F4. But it can actually hang with a lot more stuff at a really low speed. It does compress a little bit, but this is an absolute bargain bin. No, that's a wrong word. It's an absolute incredible sail. It's a unique plane, it's good. And it gets the job done in terms of grinding. Then we have rank 4, absolute no-brainer again. I'm gonna slam the G6 into S tier, and I'm gonna put this one at A tier. Not much to talk about. Then we have rank 5. Not a fan of this one. You've probably seen the video that I did. It's one of my more popular ones. I don't like it at all. But hey, it's a decent grinder. You can get some stuff done with it. Not gonna say it's a fantastic airframe, but decent premium nonetheless. And then we have the A28. You might think he's off his head, and you are right, I am clinically insane, but the A28 at 8.0 is actually pretty flyable. The only reason I'm putting it here though is because there's nothing else to pick from in the goddamn nation. But in general, you're probably best off with this thing actually. I know, it's not a good plane. I'm probably going to move this one halfway up until C rank. The A21RB is not a great plane, but there is nothing else. In terms of this nation, it's pretty decent. Then we have rank 6. And, I mean, is it good? No, not really. 9.0, it's kind of rough. It's kind of L even. I kind of want to put it over here-ish. It's not very good. And this one is also not very good, but at least it's a premium. You can also pick this one, which is also not very good, but at least it has some power. I had a very hard time choosing what to pick for the Swedish tech tree. It all kind of blows ass. It's your Lord and Savior, the J35 XS. It has some flares. You can go for the J35D as well, but I'm not putting it in here because it doesn't have flares that are too high of a BR. You can't really use the countermeasures at all in terms of rocket ports. You're gonna struggle with it. The J35 XS is again one of those planes that I think is good value because you can skip the entire ass grind that's up here. The J37C is also pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's incredible. It's like almost into A tier. It's it's B tier. It's kind of mid. You also have the other planes that are like 11.3, the J37Ds, but that's rank 8. It's a rough grind up here. And then lastly we have Israel, and if you haven't fast forward to this and actually listened to me ramble on for like 2 hours straight, you're probably clinically insane. Which means that you are eligible to buy the Spitfire LF Mark 9 Premium. Now I'm gonna put this at A tier with a very insanely big disclaimer. There's nothing to grind with it. What are you doing here with a premium rank 4? It starts at rank 4 and the rank 5s are equally ass. You want to skip those two. So if you are looking to buy a premium, just get this. It's mainly a bomb rack, has decent missiles, it's fast, consistent RP, Not very fun to fly, however. Then we go to the absolute goat of the tech tree. Yeah, just kidding. I'm not doing that to you. Then we have the Mark 9 Spitfires. The regular one is the same one as we covered in the British tech tree. It's decent, but nothing to really write home about. Then we reach rank 5, and it's kind of... I'm just gonna include all of them. And as you might notice, I have a talisman on all 3 of them. Now you might ask, but hey, why do you have a talisman on all 3 of them? Can't you just request stuff? Yeah, I still grind my stuff most of the time. At least when it comes to entire tech trees and stuff. I couldn't be asked to play any of these. So I have the Uragan, which has the same verdict as with the French nation. The Mark 8 Meteor is a little bit in between. It's pretty decent. And this one is also in between. But I would say get that Mark 8 over it. So I'm going to drag this one to A relative to this nation. So I'm going to put it like this. Also, I'm not even going to put it in arguable. So the thing is with the NF13... Technically, it's better for the BR, but every BR or every game is 8.0 anyway, so it doesn't matter. So you're better off just playing the better one. And then we have rank 6, where we finally, well, the NF13 is quote-unquote original, but we get our first original plane other than the Sakin, or the Sakin my nuts. It's the Ajit. And actually, the Ajit, it's probably the best 9.3 in the game right now. I know it's an A4E, and I know we have a premium A4E, which I'm gonna put in arguable, because... Yes, it's a premium. I'll put it in C because it's a premium. It's just not good. It really just ain't it. Then you also have the A4H, which is pretty okay. All in all, not too incredible. I'd get the Ajit over it, but if you rather fly at a BR where you don't see as many high tier planes, you're better off with the A4H. Do keep in mind, you can see 9.3 and you are gonna hate yourself. And then lastly, we have the Kafir C7. I'm probably gonna put it in B tier. As Python trees. However, 11.3, depending on the matchmaker, how it's feeling, you're probably gonna get up tiered. You're probably going to suffer. Hey, and that's it. Don't forget to use my code. I'm gonna go to bed because, man, my voice is knackered. And I have to make more videos next week because the patch is probably coming out. Looking forward to that, hey. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. I hope to God that you didn't watch the entirety of this video. If you did, bless you. Hope you don't die tonight when you see me in your dreams.